something wrong, or did
No,
that
you.
just play the... Okay, because my whole entire computer went black for a second.
No,
That
you're
was
good.
weird. All right.
Oh, and it looks like you're live on your channel too.
Okay, cool, because I was trying to set that up, and then my entire screen went black.
Okay.
So
Well,
glad to see that's not the case. All right, for everyone in my audience, we're doing this mooching again, where one of us is streaming and we're going to both audiences. So today we are recapping episode 3, and we'll get into the things we liked, didn't like. We'll go through scene by scene, kind of what we do on this channel. A little bit different than what I do on my Monday night streams, but we're gonna dig into it. I'm interested to see what you thought because this episode seemed a whole lot more polarizing than the first two.
it did. I've already heard some takes from some people. I'm sure I'll see in the chat. Which, if you guys are watching this, you guys, if you want, I'll have you on here. You know who you are. Anyways, hello to Blazerhawk Darren. Thanks for joining. All right, so episode 3. Again, just like last time, we did not talk about this ahead of time. You have no idea what I'm about to say, but I liked this one also. In fact, Darren says coffee is returning the mooch. Yeah, the number one rule of
Yes,
mooching: what goes around comes around.
mooching right back to you.
Exactly. But I liked this one. I don't think it was any better or worse than the first two. I think it's of the same quality.
Interesting, because a lot of people changed their opinion. I know I certainly did from what I thought of the first few. So that's interesting to hear how you basically thought it was exactly the same in terms of how you appreciated it from the
Yeah.
first one. So elaborate why that is.
Well, because again, I was just able to sit through this episode and stay like hooked into what was going on and not see anything, at least by my standards, that drew me out of what was going on within the universe, being like, "Oh, this is so bad. I can't believe this anymore."
Okay, I gotcha.
So what about you?
So, well, upon finishing it, like right when I got into the credits, I think I would have to give it a 6.5 out of 10, which is a far
Okay.
cry from the, what, 8.5 that I gave the premiere two episodes. And
Right.
now that I'm thinking about it a little more and kind of reevaluating why I felt certain ways, I'm willing to bump that up to a 7.5 at this point. I've still only seen it once and then kind of clips and thought about it a little bit since then. But I'm willing to give it a 7.5 as of right now because I kind of re examined how I felt about certain things. So that's where I'm at
Okay.
now.
Fair enough. Darren says he likes this one a little bit better, and 7.5 is his rating. Okay. 8.5 is still mine for this episode. So let's get into what happens and sort of. I feel like I have a feeling where what happens, what certain things happen that would make this so polarizing. But there's also, and I'm going to go ahead and name his name. I was talking with Crit about this last night, and he said that there's one thing that he noticed that they were doing with the Force that he was not a fan of. And having now seen the episode, I couldn't spot it. So, Crit, if you're watching this and you'd like to come on and explain, please do. Hello, by the way, to Leia Rose, who is in your chat, believe it or not,
Cool.
and Thrawn. What's up?
Oh, hello there. Wait, that was like Obi Thrawn, Obi Thrawn Kenobi. Man, it's been a hot
General
while since I've done
Thrawnobi.
General Thrawn Obi. Man, I've lost my Thrawn voice. I'll have to get that back.
Yeah. All right. So the episode starts with Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang flying through space, and Huyang and Sabine are going through sort of lightsaber training sessions. And I think it's really cool. And I don't remember whether or not he had this ability in the Clone Wars, but Huyang can go Grievous mode and fight with 4 basically practice sabers against Sabine, who's using basically a stick. I know it's got an official name, but I'm calling it a stick.
Yeah, it said it in the comments or the live caption, the subtitles. I don't remember what it was. It was like a Kato.
Boken, I think it
Oh,
was.
maybe a Boca or Bokan. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and
Something with
they
a K,
make,
I believe.
and Sabine's doing very well with that. It's a Bo-Katan.
Nice.
Yeah. And again, Sabine's doing very well, and it really sets the point that they kind of hammer on later on in the episode, that when it comes to the physical, more practical aspects, Bo-Katan, I like that. When it comes to the physical, more practical aspects of being a Jedi, for example, lightsaber fighting, she's good, if a bit out of practice.
Yeah, competent. Yeah.
Ahsoka outright says, your Mandalorian heritage and upbringing makes you a natural-born fighter with just about any weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Sabine's frustration is that she can't use the Force. So,
yeah, and I would say one line that, and we can get into the weeds in just a minute about why this may have hit people the wrong way, myself included. But I think one line that really stood out to me was how she said, "I'm not training her to be I don't need her to be a Jedi. I need her to be herself." And some people, Scoundrels Cantina, love you, bro. Nothing against you. But some people took that to mean be yourself. You are all you need. Find it within yourself. Kind of that Disney woke messaging kind of that is going around right now.
right.
I did not take it that way at all. And especially after re-examining it and thinking about it a little farther, I don't see it that way. And that line kind of helped me to think, okay, she's not trying to turn her into the next Jedi. That's not the goal of what she's trying to do with it. So that's something that stood out to me.
Because the way I see it, okay, Thrawn says Boken
Thank you.
literally means wooden sword. Okay, fair enough. But it also makes sense that Ahsoka would say that, because Ahsoka herself, and she has said this multiple times since the end of Clone Wars Season 5, is that she's not a Jedi. So why would she train Sabine to be something that she herself is not? And real quick, we have another guest joining us. I played a stinger for you. I don't have a good one that fits, so I'll just bring him in. Welcome for the first time in a long time, Coach from Echo Base Network, who is currently in dark mode.
In dark mode.
It matches my mood.
He's trying to save his battery percentage.
Oh, fun.
It matches my mood.
I gotcha.
Oh, has the blowback been that harsh?
Lights coming on. Lights coming. Oh, guys, I cannot tell you.
Oh, they went off.
I cannot tell you how happy I am to be here to talk to two people who are reasonable.
Well,
oh man,
all we try to do.
Well, I want to have you on one of my Monday streams at some point, because I've always enjoyed our conversation, and I feel like I need to give you a little bit of hope. Yeah. Just the little tiny bit I've seen in your comment section.
Okay, I look, Paul. I mean, you guys, I don't even know where y'all are in the conversation. I literally just got home from church.
I gotcha.
But let me just say this first. I'm enjoying Ahsoka.
Good. We are too. In fact,
I really enjoyed the third episode last night.
Cool. Yes. And set aside YouTube channels and fandom and franchise and Disney ownership, and set aside all of that. What it boils down to is, we always say, watch it like an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it? That's all that matters to you.
Yep.
And then all this stuff is a side issue, and we can talk about that. But I'm very, very happy that
I'll drop some bombs tonight if y'all want to talk about that.
Hey, wherever the conversation goes.
Look, I've been unsubscribing to friends.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
So I need a break from all that.
And hello in the chat to Andrew, who's saying, "Coach praying at church for the fandom."
Actually, I didn't. It didn't even cross my mind, Andrew. But next time I will.
Yes.
I'll
All
add the
right.
fandom to my list tonight.
So, Coach, for those that might not be fully familiar, can you kind of just recap for us what your thoughts on the first 2 episodes were going into
Sure.
the third one?
Okay. The first 2 episodes, I scored them a 7 out of 10. I think, and I said that they were average just because I use a grading scale when I rate things. So if I say something's a 7, it's a C, an 8 is a B, a 9 is an A, and a 10 is about as good as you could get.
Right.
It's flawless almost. Very hard to get, a 10, but haven't given many 10s of anything in my life. But I gave the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka a 7, and just thinking about those 2 episodes, you don't want me to be. How detailed do you want me to be, Paul?
Say whatever you want.
There were. So when Nick and I reviewed the 2 episodes, we went positives first, negatives second, and then overall score third.
Right.
I had several positives. There were some negatives in the first 2 episodes for me.
Yeah.
And I also take into account the second episode was a much shorter runtime. However, I almost had no negatives for episode 3. It was
Wow.
so good for me. A lot of the things that people were saying bothered them didn't bother me at all. It felt like a Clone Wars episode.
It really
That's what I
did.
was just thinking about earlier today. Someone was saying that the whole spacewalk and jumping on the wings and stuff was totally out of place and doesn't belong in Star Wars.
Wrong.
And at
That's what
first, it
Anakin would have
didn't.
done.
Right. At first, it didn't sit with me well, and then I was like, didn't we have like an exact version of that with Plo Koon and the clones in like
We've
one of the
seen 'em.
first few episodes of the Clone Wars?
And we've seen them in their
So-
spacesuits many times.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And now I was afraid that we were going to get a Leia Poppins, and she was just going to go out
Yeah.
there holding her force breath or whatever. That got me worried. My heart stopped for a second, and then I saw the spacesuit, and I was okay after that.
You know what got me worried? When Sabine was trying to reach out with the Force for the cup, and I was like, please don't move it. Please don't move it. It's too early. It's too early.
Yep.
And they have done Sabine so well. She was like a critical
Agreed.
point for me. Like, I was not feeling it at all, but the way that they've handled the character, she's like a 0 out of 100 on force ability. She's not all that great with the saber. So they have definitely established her as not being a Rey Palpatine.
Yes.
But at the same time,
Yes.
Sabine is already an established character, so she can fly the ship. She's an expert. She can get in the gunner's seat. She's an expert. She can destroy people. She's an expert.
Yep.
Like, she's a Mandalorian. She could do all these things. So it's not like she doesn't know how to do anything. I think they've handled that character really well. I think Rosario is awesome.
Yep.
I love Hu Yang. He is
Agreed.
almost on K2SO level for me.
Yes.
I could definitely see that. And shout out to David Tennant for doing a great job voicing him.
Yeah, and I love the relationship between Hu Yang and Ahsoka that gives you that Clone Wars feel for me. Ahsoka's always had a heart for droids, going back to R2 in Clone Wars. She has a very tight relationship with droids, and I love the fact that Hu Yang is hers.
Yes.
But I'll tell you guys what, man, the part that gave me my favorite part of Ahsoka so far is actually one line of dialogue.
And what's that?
It is when Ahsoka was training Sabine in the
I know what you're talking about.
in the first
Ooh.
half, and Sabine goes crazy with the saber, and Ahsoka looks at her and says, "Aggression can
Can empower you, but it unbalances you.
yeah, it can empower
it's like,
you.
it's like a quick path
It
to
leaves
power.
you imbalanced." Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, there's
that
so
is
many layers."
straight from the other Jedi Masters. And I
Yeah,
know she's not a
so
Jedi,
good.
but that is some legitimate Jedi wisdom right there. And it
Yes.
felt so Star Warsy. That ambiguous, subjective feeling of like, is something Star Warsy? Does it feel like Star Wars? That was it.
Real quick, I want to hit on some of these comments. Nerdporial has been given his thoughts on the episode, so let me hit on these. He says there's a lot of problems with Ahsoka. The logic is not there. Like, Ahsoka failed to tell Sabine that people were after the map. Another shameless borrowing of KOTOR, a map to a person. Force Awakens did that, and it was nonsensical. The only thing positive was the look, the message, greed is bad. I can definitely see where you're coming from. He also says...
Here's one thing I do want to say that I've been kind of stewing over in my head the last few days. A lot of people have been calling this map a MacGuffin. Sure, I'll grant you that. But their main criticism of it is the same as the dagger from... What is it? The Rise of Palpawalker.
Yeah.
Which was, how would that ancient sword that has been on... wherever it was, point to the location of the Death Star, and the times don't line up. I don't see the same issue with this star map here, because all that map is pointing to is probably the closest galaxy, or whatever the best hyperspace route to the next place would be. Where do the Purgils travel from that planet, or from that galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy that we know, to the next galaxy? That's probably what the map is showing, rather than actual Thrawn's location. Because then, yeah, that wouldn't make sense. So I feel like a lot of people haven't been thinking about that way.
He also says that Hugh Yang is basically Mr. Ollivander, and that Filoni borrows too much from other film franchises. He needs to read Joseph Campbell.
Hu Yang is an established character in Star Wars. He's not new.
Right. He was in the...
He goes back
in
15,
Clone Wars...
15 years ago. Like, he's been around.
Mid-Clone Wars Season 5 is when we first meet him, because it's
He
arc...
took the younglings to go get their sabers.
Yep.
On Ilum?
Yes.
Cool. I didn't know that. I haven't seen all the way through Clone Wars yet, so...
Let's see. Darren
the
says...
show needs to state that. Oh, depending on what you were talking about, yeah.
Right. Darren says that Ahsoka was basically trying to impart a little Miyagi wisdom about balance. That is
And she
true.
told so much in so few words, too.
Yeah. And that whole scene in general, because we're kind of recapping scene by scene what's going on, Coach, and we were at the scene where Sabine is training with Hugh Yang, and then Ahsoka steps in, and we get that little callback, with the shield down, I can't see anything. How am I supposed to fight?
Yeah.
I was literally expecting Ahsoka to say word for word, your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
That's what you said in your review, Coach. I watched that earlier.
I was going to cringe. I didn't want to hear it. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But I'm glad they went the way that they went.
It was like a soft Easter egg. I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, hello to Quinlan Voss, who says, with Jason Solo, in the sense wanting to be a Jedi, do you think he will join Luke's Jedi Academy? If not, who will train him?
Jason Syndulla?
Yeah, it's got to be Jason Syndulla.
Maybe. I'm saying this...
Maybe when he's old enough, be under the tutelage of Ahsoka, because that's...
Right.
You know, it's an interesting
Really,
thing when you're bridging these two different components, eras, periods to Star Wars
Hi, Tim's dad.
that don't necessarily match up. Like here again, you know, the Senate literally told Hera Syndulla, you know, you were so great in the battle against the Empire, and I'm like, she was? Like, I don't remember her in the original trilogy like at all.
That is
there were also other fronts of the battle that we didn't get to see other than the major
kind of like in
battles.
Lord of the Rings, while the quest for the ring is going on, and you have Aragorn leading the armies to the Black Gate. There was a big battle going on, say at Erebor, involving the descendants of Thorin and Bard.
Yeah, and for all we know, that the ghost, past what we see in Rebels Season 4, could have been doing, you know, attack runs on certain military outposts of the Empire, doing supply runs, more covert operations than the main Echo Base battle on Hoth.
Hey, easy.
The two Death Stars.
Don't you get my name out your mouth.
I don't see. There's no slapping on this channel.
So I'll tell you guys one thing that worries me a tad bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't... The thing about it, man, when I'm watching Star Wars, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it until it happens, or if it doesn't happen. But I'm afraid, and they might. This might not happen. This might turn out to be good. This could turn out to be something that is such a positive thing for Star Wars if they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you go about it. But in the next 5 episodes, at some point, they have got to mention at some point, some way, somehow, show us, say their names, something about Luke and Leia.
I agree.
If they don't, I feel
Yeah.
it's incomplete.
There's not enough bridging it to the established lore.
Yeah. And
If
it's
that's
funny.
not the case.
And it's funny you mentioned that, Coach, because on Tim's channel, like the 2 streams that me and him did together leading up to this show, one of the things that I said that if I was making this show, what I would do, in fact, I all but made this prediction, is that I wanted to see a scene between Luke and Ahsoka where Luke tells Ahsoka that Anakin was redeemed.
Yes. So it's on Filoni's mind. He didn't have to have Ahsoka with Luke when Luke was training Grogu. She didn't have to be there.
Right.
So it just stands to reason it's going to happen. It has to happen. And when it does, I'm gonna be like running circles around this office.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna wait and see. I'm not anticipating it, but yeah, it better come, and when it does, I'll be ready for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
So yeah, getting back to the scene though, that whole training scenario with Ahsoka and Sabine, where you have Sabine just flailing into the darkness, because she can't see anything, and Ahsoka is just walking behind her, just tapping her on the shoulder to psych her out. And at certain points they do clash, but it's mostly just Sabine trying and failing.
Yes.
It's basically Marco Polo without saying the words.
Yeah, that's what Nick was saying. The one thing about that was a negative for me. What's up? The one thing about that was a negative for me is like in the beginning of that whole thing, where Ahsoka was like, "Where am I?" And she was like, "You're over here because I hear you." And then boom, Ahsoka's on the other side, and it was like ninja vanish. And I'm like,
so I actually immediately thought about what the explanation is.
please.
So human ears cannot tell vertically where sound is coming from. They can barely tell forward or backwards where sound is coming from. She had the visor over her whole face, so her out the side, her hearing was not great on locating where it was. So she could have been on one side, and it would have sounded exactly the same on the other side with that helmet. That's just the way that human ears work.
Right.
So
the way
that's
the camera
an explanation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's like
most
she
people probably
instant
took it the way that you
transported
did.
like Goku across the room, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Look, and it's a little thing. That's not like, oh my gosh, they did that. I'm bringing my score down a point. I mean, that's a relatively very small thing,
Right.
You guys want cookies?
I wish, man.
I'm good, man. I went to the gym. I went to the gym today.
So did I, and I'm pretty sure I messed up my back further doing deadlifts.
Dad, stop that.
Take it easy, old man.
Do you have a belt?
I do.
Do you have a belt? Oh, okay.
I do. I'm not the best with my form, is all.
Well, then fix it. Go lighter.
Okay.
Yeah, concentrate on technique.
Absolutely.
Power is nothing without control.
Thrawn says, "Hey, coach, is that an official The Force's female cup you're using there?"
Wow.
Oh.
Wow. Versus I
will
got
come
Vader's
for you,
castle
Thrawn.
over here.
Think about the text message you got earlier. I will come for you. I love it.
And Darren said regarding the whole Anakin and Luke and Ahsoka thing, it'll be nice, but I don't think it'll happen because KK will not want it to happen.
And yet we got Andor.
Yeah, the
True.
thing about that is, and I totally respect that opinion, and I get exactly why so many people say that. But it's like, if right now, like the haters of the show, and I'm not going to mention anybody specifically by name, but like content creators, media, the haters of the show are all on board because the show is like apparently average, and because it's average, it's terrible. And so they're twisting the narrative that way, and they're saying, I've seen 3 different videos from people whom I know in the last 3 days make a video that says Star Wars is dead. And I'm like,
that's reductive. We talked about that last week, Paul.
We did.
14 million people watching it is not dead. And if it's dead, why are you talking about it every day?
Yeah. I made this point. When people say Star Wars is dead, I know where their headspace is at. They are wanting the revival of the Star Wars we've gotten in the past. That is not going to happen. We are not going to get another Return of the Jedi.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's not possible. And so for people to say, is this going to save Star Wars? No. Is it going to kill Star Wars? No, because that Star Wars is gone forever.
It's very unlikely.
It's just such a reductive argument to make and say that this show killed Star Wars or Star Wars is dead now. Well, it's not the same Star Wars. It's going to be... now, if they come out with a show and it gets like 100 viewers, I mean, we can call it dead at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
The reception that this is getting... And we also have to keep in mind, the loudest voices are the people that have the most against it.
Yeah.
And so all the people that are enjoying it, like us...
What in the heck is that?
Oh, I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all.
Coach, what are you doing?
Hey, boys. Sorry.
I don't know about that at all.
That was weird.
Hey, listen. So, like, but my point is, like, all the people that are saying that right now, let's just imagine, okay, that Ahsoka was overwhelmingly a 10 out of 10 for like 90% of the fans. It's the greatest live action Star Wars we've ever gotten. It's Return of the Jedi level enjoyment. You with me? Like, everybody's loving it. Oh my gosh, Star Wars is back. It's regaining its place at the top in pop culture. If that were happening, every content creator who's making videos about Star Wars is dead, instead of that, they would be saying, well, this is your sign. Kathy Kennedy has no power. Dude, just stop. Just stop. Like, measure what we know and quit all... Speculation is fun, but too many people are selling their speculation as truth, and there's way too many sheep buying it. And I'm just telling you this to my friends. I am sick of it. I'm with you. I am offending them because I'm being truthful. I'm not being a butt about it. I'm just being truthful.
Yeah.
And they can't handle that.
More than fair in your reviews and videos recently.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And as far as the whole Star Wars is dead thing, I've said this before, and I will continue to say it, but Star Wars is only truly dead when the doors shut forever on Lucasfilm and Star Wars never gets made again. That is when Star Wars, at least new Star Wars coming out, is dead. And even then, it'll never truly die, because we'll still have all the other stuff that's come out before it that we can go back and keep watching and enjoying.
Yeah, and it's like, people... All right. I think you guys are right there with me on this. And chat, I think y'all are here with me too. Star Wars has been precious to us for a long time. But if I go watch a brand new show of Ahsoka on next Tuesday and it's awful, I am not going to lose any sleep over that. It's not going to ruin my day. I'm fine. You know what I mean? It was a bad show. That's it.
Yep.
But because I gave the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka a 7, and the 3rd episode I gave it an 8, it's like I have destroyed people's weeks by saying that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, check your emotions, man. Like, take a walk outside. Seriously, you're taking this way too seriously. It's an opinion that I have that should have no effect on you at all. I've never, not one time, told anybody anything to think about Star Wars.
Yep. And it's also really surprising that there would still be that reaction after, for the first 2 episodes, you and Nick had such differing opinions on the overall rating. He was pretty apathetic about it, and a 5 based on your score is pretty bad. That's, barely passing the class? So
a 5 is a failure.
It's true. Yeah. So So basically, Nick barely made it to watch the third episode, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and so the difference of opinion is between you guys would have demonstrated, you would think, to the people watching your videos, like, hey, these guys are just kind of giving their opinion, and you put in the title "honest review"
every time.
and you can't please those people.
Somebody even said in a comment, "Why did you put honest? You're just
Hey,
telling
Phil.
everybody. You're just telling everybody that you typically lie." And I'm like, "No, I'm telling you that most other channels do." That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Of course.
Sorry. You guys don't, but you know what I'm
No.
talking. I'm talking about the people who says the same things because it fits a mold and it fulfills an expectation of their audience, and they're able to get their rage hate clicks.
Yep.
And because of that, it's very lucrative and they make a lot of money. I texted Nick 2 days ago and said, "Bro, we should have just started hating everything 4 years ago."
Pretty sure I'd be at like 50,000 subs by now if I did that.
Exactly. You would be. Because our culture is sick. Our culture is sick with hate.
Yeah,
And
that's not fun though.
It's
That's
not
fun.
It's not. I want to talk about stuff I like.
No, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is what I live for as a Star Wars fan. Just talking with you guys about if we were in person with our little action figures sitting together
I got
around the
first pick.
table after
I
we
got
ate
first-
pizza rolls.
Phil says,
go.
"I have never seen anything so scary as I see on this panel. Hashtag don't
Bye.
tread on me."
Supposedly that's a racist
Ah.
flag. Ties to slavery.
That's what I just did, Andrew. Here you go, Andrew. Bye.
That is
I
perfect.
don't know
I'm
what
going to
that
clip
is.
that. But yeah, getting back to the show, after we're done with the training stuff, which is really good, and yeah, we do get a tease of Sabine moving the cup, but it's not paid off yet. I do think it's going to happen in the finale, though.
Yep.
Hmm.
But we see Hera, and she's talking to Mon Mothma and the council, and you especially pointed this out, saying, Tim, that this could possibly sprinkle a little bit of Andor into this show because you have the same actress playing Mon Mothma. Did you get what you wanted as far as that goes?
So I loved that scene. The whole quip of her saying that, so what, you just sat on the sidelines and waited for who the winner was going to be to join that side, was
Dang.
excellent. That cut right to the heart of the whole deal with that. And I loved this scene in general because it shows the cracks starting to form in the formation or in the foundation of the New Republic.
yeah,
It's not going to be a perfect government, and it is doomed to fail. And now that's going to upset some people because they're saying, "Oh, well, you're just playing into the leading up to the sequel trilogy."
we kind of have no choice.
I
but
mean,
to play
yeah,
into the
that's
sequel
just
trilogy.
I've accepted that that's where it's all going to go.
Always with the white cape.
I can't
Yeah.
help it. I can't help it.
Hey,
Dang.
it's fine. You always mention the white cable, and Phil always mentions the pillows and
Oh.
how they're may or may not be fluffed to military standards.
Oh my goodness. So I'm with you, Tim. That line of dialogue was so powerful for that character.
Yep.
A lot of us, a lot of viewers, including me, the character of Hera in the live action, they hadn't won me over yet.
Yep.
But when she dropped that line, now I'm with it.
She's
Now
still
I'm
too
with it.
tall,
Yes.
but myself included. Yes.
She needed that, and she went straight savage mode
Yeah.
on the Senate. And I really liked it. And I think
And
she's
the,
going to
the
show up
awkward
in the
pause
Ghost.
after that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she just stared at him.
Yep.
She did.
And it's
Kind of
like,
like I knew I wasn't supposed to say that, but
do you know what percentage
is.
of me looked at that scene and thought, well, another empowered female?
zero.
Zero.
Zero. Same here.
And
Same
and
here.
of course the concept of there being people, including up to whole worlds, that decide, you know what, I'm going to let these two factions play out and just go with whoever wins. Of course that's believable because that's kind of the world we live in now. Everyone's, looking at different conflicts and being like, well, let's see how this plays out and how can that benefit me?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's politicians.
Exactly.
And a lot of people still don't like the prequels because of the politics. That's one of my favorite things about them. And so Andor had a lot of that. We got to see the corruption of the Empire and the elites, and they're like, oh, I don't care if if they're criminals, they deserve
Yeah.
to be in prison anyway.
And
so,
even though people lambast it, we got that same exact thing in the
and
Dr.
that's-
Pershing episode of Mando
Yes.
season 3.
And that's pure world building. My favorite thing about Star Wars is the world, and learning about how the governments operate at those different times is essential to that.
Thrawn says they've consistently hit the girl power notes in this series without making it about girl power by simply having good characters speak good dialogue that would be gender independent. Funny that.
Yes. Yep.
Dude, I defended the show because all the people, not all the people, but so many people like criticizing it's all about women, the Force is female stuff, and that look, that's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Mhm.
However, look at the story. Like Kanan's dead, Ezra's gone. Zeb will show up eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I would think.
Missed opportunity if not.
Yep, I agree. So there'll be don't worry, everybody. A man will show up at some point and do some good. But when I watch the show, I don't see that. And normally I do. And here's the funny thing, and I think Rissman texted it to me. It was either Thrawn or Rissman. I think it was Rissman. The fandom complained for years about Rey Palpatine, all the abilities with no training. And then they show Ahsoka training in the scene that you're talking about, Paul, and they're like, she's training too long. And it's like, what do you want?
That's an actual complaint?
Yeah, really, yes.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to get into a little bit is the whole concept of Sabine being able to use the Force, right? And that is what hit me the wrong way with this episode at first, which is why overall I gave it a 6.5. I did not get a good feeling about that in general. And then the more I've thought about it over the last 24 hours, I've really come around to it.
Is this the question she asks as to why can't everyone use the Force?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Coach. Not specifically, Paul. Go ahead, Coach.
Is it so I felt the same way. And what happened with me is I recalled back, it just popped into my head. The Force is inside all living things. Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'm like,
yes.
Yes. He told us in 77.
That George Lucas, multiple times in interviews, a lot of comments on this, on my posts from earlier, have been saying that George Lucas has always said anyone can use the Force. It's just, it takes a lot of dedication and practice, and more people are naturally gifted than others. Sure. We've known since the prequels that midichlorians have a very strong correlation with Force abilities, natural Force abilities, and different species and different people have different natural affinities for the Force, which is why Anakin was the only human that could do pod racing, because he had the midichlorians. Other species, it's not as much of a problem for them because they have naturally quicker reaction times. And if you want to call that connection to the Force, sure. So the question that really stuck in my head was Chirrut Imwe from Rogue One, the blind Jedi guy, right?
Yeah.
The question I was asking myself, if he had dedicated himself to deepening that connection with the Force, we don't know to what degree he already did, but if he spent time devoting himself to that connection and fostering that, could he have used the Force in the traditional sense to force move things, with his mind, telekinesis?
I would think so.
Maybe.
Yeah, I would think yes. Right.
I mean, the kid at the end of The Last Jedi did the broom thing.
Right. And that's probably just because his natural connection is stronger than anyone else's. But in theory, George Lucas's logic and kind of what would make sense, anyone can use the Force.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean anyone can be a Jedi. Anyone can throw a Frisbee. Not everyone can go on tour.
Well, so to back up, to piggyback on what you're saying, Tim, Hu Yang actually said the Jedi never would have accepted her because she didn't have enough ability.
Yep. And who knows what kind of general population have a decent connection with the Force but don't know about the Force, have never been trained, and therefore no one can move things with their mind. Han Solo, I think it's canon that he had a high midichlorian count for a human. Could he have fostered that and tapped into the Force at some point?
Possibly. I mean, there's those fan theories
Yeah.
going around that he was able to Jedi mind trick Jabba the Hutt in the extra scene they added with him in A New Hope. Which,
Right, and I'm sure for most people that would just come across as like charisma or being really persuasive, right? It wouldn't be like
right.
mind control, but there, even whether they know it or not, they would have a natural inclination to that. So that's kind of what won me over to the whole idea of Sabine being able to use the Force. What will ruin it for me? And I agree with everyone else in a lot of the comments that having her not move the cup was a great decision at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want to see is for her to pick it up really quickly or to be very powerful in it.
I agree.
Like a big tower is about to fall on someone, and she all of a sudden taps into her inner self and catches it. Don't do that.
I said
Just don't.
on one of your streams, Tim, here's the exact scenario I would do. And Thrawn, I'll read your comment in moments. Here's exactly what I would do. That scene where she is dueling with Shin in the forest, basically have it where she is literally backed against a corner, has no way out, and so in a move of desperation, she basically just uses a powerful enough force push to push Shin away. That's it.
I would be okay with that.
And Thrawn says, hot take, I absolutely love the dichotomy with Sabine and that they are addressing it head on. No chosen one, no Sith granddaughter, no high concentration of microorganisms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm sure she probably would have a higher than average midichlorian count just because she's so good at combat. She's a Mandalorian. So we'll see if they address that at some point.
Right. Phil says Disney story will end up for this show will be Omega will end up being a Force user and the Sith Eternal. Oh boy. Yes, I'm saying Omega will appear. We know Nick would be a great big fan of that.
Omega is the reincarnated Darth or Lord Vitiate.
Something like that. All right. So anyways, the next big scene that happens after this, after we get that scene with Hera talking to her son, is we get the scene of basically the space fights where Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang pull up on the Denab system and they're completely cut off from everyone else. Their comms are jammed. And suddenly we've got Marok, Shin, and other fighters engaging them in a dogfight. And during this, we see some pretty good piloting and shooting down from Sabine and Ahsoka. But at some point, their ship's disabled, and we get that spacewalk scene that we were talking about. And again, I remember talking about this last night. In fact, this was on stream. Go back and watch the Batman stream we did last night. You'll see plenty of rage, by the way. But Crit mentioned how he wasn't the biggest fan of how they did this scene and how it didn't make sense that Ahsoka basically had gravity, was just standing on the ship instead of, I guess, floating off.
Magnet
and
boots.
kind of likened it to the spacewalk scene in Star Trek First Contact. Yes.
I don't know about that, but I thought she was wearing magnet boots, part of the suit.
I think she was.
She was.
Because when she was floating off, she said, like, here, I got you, I'll pick you up, and swung the wing. And as soon as she touched the wing, she was able to run back inside.
Right. Probably my one knock is maybe they could have shown like an activation of the gravity boots to make it just a little bit more clear what those were. But again, that's just like a minor nitpick for me.
I didn't even question it. Like, to me, it was obvious they were gravity boots.
Right.
Yeah.
As soon as it touched the metal surface, she was locked in.
Yep. So, again, a great showcase of more of, Ahsoka's skill that she's fostered over the years. The fact that she was able to deflect ship fire, like rapid ship fire with her lightsabers. And of course, Sabine able to get the ship fixed and all that, and they land on Denab, and we get our first up close live action shot of the Purgle, which, as someone who admittedly has not seen the end of Rebels, I don't know what I was expecting for. I knew they looked like space whales, but I was still surprised at exactly what they looked like. Like if you took a humpback whale and gave him squid tentacles.
Captain, there be whales here.
Yep.
Yeah, they're way bigger than I had in my mind, and I know they're large, but
Oh yeah,
I forgot they were that big.
Like, remember in Mando season 3 when Mando and Grogu are going through hyperspace and we get like the blurry thing of them?
Yeah.
And then here we're like up close and personal. I thought was really
great.
cool.
The scene was awesome, and the fighting all around them I thought was really good.
Yes, it was. We also get our first spoken dialogue from Marok, and apparently Sam Witwer is credited as doing his voice, and a lot of people are speculating that this is Starkiller. I don't quite believe that. I don't think Disney would canonize Starkiller because hot take, even though he's a better character, he was just as OP, if not more OP than Rey was. So I don't think they would ever canonize him. I'm still holding out that it's Barriss, and that the reason Marok sounds like that is because she's using a voice changer.
I think that's the obvious answer, and I'm open to it being anyone else, but I think that would be a really good decision if it was her.
Yes. And pretty much the scene ends with another shot of Baylan. And again, Ray Stevenson is a great actor. He really sold the menacing side of his character, whereas in especially the first episode, he was able to really play that con of being a wise old Jedi, only to then, reveal his true nature. He really sold that menacing way that he said, the Jedi have landed in the forest. Find them and kill them.
And he's hoping that they do, so he doesn't have to get his own hands dirty. Because we already know that he has at least an appreciation for Ahsoka.
Right. Thrawn says
he's a former Jedi, and he's not necessarily a Sith.
Yeah, we went with Dark Jedi.
He's a former mercenary. He's a mercenary former Jedi, and that he's for hire. That's all that is,
Yep. Yeah, he has no allegiance to Elsbeth other than his own quest for power from Thrawn, whatever that is.
Right.
And money, sure.
Speaking of Thrawn, he says, rewatching that scene, they're also in orbit over a planet. There absolutely is gravity anyways. Okay. I could believe that.
Yeah, but if
also,
you're orbiting with the planet,
hello to Indiana Smith, who says there's always a bigger whale. And hello to KG earlier, who says that they're on the Starkiller train, but they got to make him cooler.
Yeah, I think it's too mild of an introduction for Marok for it to be
I agree.
Galen Marok.
So
I don't think we'll ever see Starkiller in live action.
I agree.
No. So that's all that I can think of as far as what happens. Did I miss anything?
I really liked how they, in the schematics of the space ring, the hyperspace ring that Hu Yang downloaded, I really like that they gave us a time frame. 6 are in place. They need 1 more to get this thing operational. That's our time frame. We need to do the thing before this happens. There's so many shows that I see that do not have a time frame, and everyone's running around, and it's literally the meme, why are you running?
Yeah, like
because
Mando.
It's like, what is the time frame? If we don't do this, then what? Like the recapturing of Mandalore. It's like, why do we have to do this right now? It's like, we discovered our homeworld. Let's go back in there and take it back. It's like there's no time, there's no scale of why we need to do this now. But seeing that 1 more hyperdrive put in place and this thing's operational and they get Thrawn back, or potentially get Thrawn back. That's our time frame right there, and what we need to get it done by.
Exactly. Let's see. Thrawn goes on to say, so for example, the gravitational force in orbit around Earth is about 4 to 6% less than Earth's surface. You're lighter, but you're still pretty weighted down.
Yeah, but
I mean,
yes, but the ship is still orbiting, and by definition, it's falling at the same rate as the Earth is curving away from it. Therefore, no gravity is felt.
right. So, again,
It-
it was a great scene.
It's not Earth, though,
Maybe-
so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe could have just explained just a tad more, at least for me. Let's see. What is this, Coach?
I put this poll up earlier today. Now, granted, it's not on like Coffee on Korriban level polls, but I got 800 votes almost. And you see,
I was getting like 10,000 per poll.
I know it
during
was
Andor.
insane.
It was wild.
Ahsoka episode 3, 45% of the people said it was good or great.
That's
Then you
good.
throw an additional 20%. So 2 out of every 3 people said it's either average to great.
Let me
and
pull
then-
up my poll
okay.
and see what that looks like as well.
I mean, I'm very pleased with that number. Like it's I feel like that is a well balanced, and that's what we want our channel to be. By the way, we want it to be an everybody channel, not just if this was like 80% terrible on this poll, something would be wrong,
Yes.
or 80% great, something
All
would
right,
be wrong.
Coach, here's my numbers. Almost 500 votes. So decent sample size, especially for my channel. 5% said totally whack. That's kind of what I've been seeing is about 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7% of people say it's awful. Like they choose the worst option. I don't think those people are even watching the show. They're just clicking a button.
Yeah,
18% said not great, filler episode, boring.
okay,
And then between best episode yet, which was 37%, and pretty good, not as good as the premiere, 40%.
wow,
That's 77% people said either pretty good or it was the best episode,
yeah.
which
I
is
should do a poll
really
like this on my
strong.
own.
It's really strong. 77% more than boring, more than just average. Like, That's
Right.
really good.
Right.
That's really
That's
strong.
great. That's good.
Andre Oliveira, forgive me if I said that wrong, says, question, so far, are you liking Andor or Ahsoka more? Ahsoka, no question for me.
Andor,
Ahsoka.
no question for me.
Ahsoka. It's the first 2 episodes of Andor compared to the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka.
Yes, and
No,
I did
no
say
compare.
this on Monday, I believe, Paul, in that
Yeah.
the first 2, and that's why it was a great decision for them to release the first 3. First 2 episodes of Andor, I wasn't won over because I had been hyping up Andor for probably a year prior to it coming out. Since I started my channel, I said Andor is the one to watch out for, and those first 2 episodes, I was like, I mean, it's pretty slow. I see whatever everyone's complaining about, and then we got kicked off, and of course, I loved it. You guys know that.
Sure.
But at this point, for the first 2 episodes, I would have to say Ahsoka's more interesting. After this 3rd episode, it's not even close for me. Andor was far better for me.
It's
Okay.
Ahsoka for me. Andor. You know, one of the problems about Andor was me getting up at 2:00 in the morning to watch it.
That's why I didn't.
Yes. The reception for
that's
Andor
not-
probably
that's
would
not
have been
the
better
kind
if
of
it was on this
show.
release schedule.
No doubt. That is not the kind of show you want to get up at 2 a.m. and watch. Like,
No.
I might as well be watching
No.
Steel Magnolias. It's moving slow.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think that it took them way too long to change the release time to night. Like, why were they so set on having it be a midnight premiere? Us East Coast people, I'm not waking up at 3 in the morning to watch that.
Yeah. That
And
ain't
then
worth
what?
it.
It's an hour-long episode, and then what? I go back to sleep for 2 hours before I go to work. That's not going to work. So
Yeah.
for them to change it, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, or last week. Man, it's only been a week and a half. For them to change it like this is allowing Ahsoka, the episode, to be an event. You're like, hey, everyone come over to my house, and we'll all watch it on my big screen or whatever. I'll put up the projector or something, as opposed to waking up groggy the next morning being like, oh, yeah, I saw it. What did you think? Oh, I didn't stay up. I was too tired or whatever. So now it's actually able to be an event, because how many shows in the past, The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or whatever, that had those weekly releases on cable television, but they would release at 9 o'clock Eastern or whatever.
Exactly.
And it was an event. Everyone would know this is the day. Don't bother me on Wednesday evening because I'm going home to watch this show at this time. So I think that's really going to help Ahsoka's mass appeal. And I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
And in case we didn't say it when we last discussed it, I'll go ahead and say it now. I hope that this model of releasing it at 9 p.m. on Tuesday instead of 3 in the morning Wednesday,
It's so
I
nice.
hope that this is not just a one-time thing, that this is the model that they go with. Andrew just posted a really interesting comment here. He says, Nick legitimately appeared before me in a dream on the premiere night and told me not to wake up to watch Andor. So I did. This actually happened. Never went back because of said dream. Wow.
Now, if anyone in the chat has not seen Andor, and I know I sing the praises of Andor a whole lot, give it a chance. At least watch the first 3 episodes. It is slow by entertainment standards. It's so rich and detailed. If you like the type of shows that are very character, dialogue driven, very introspective, Breaking Bad type shows, where you're not going to get the payoff every single episode, check it out. It's very well crafted, and I think it'll be worth your time.
Right. All right. Well, I think that is all I can think of to talk about as far as this episode. Anything that you guys want to touch on before we sign off?
I think that was pretty much the main deal for me, was Sabine's force ability. And to Andre's comment, we were talking about that earlier. I think kind of the consensus was everyone can use the force. It's going to be way easier for certain individuals, and most people would never know to try to foster that connection.
And it takes a lifetime of practice and dedication.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, is there anything you want to touch on before? Why is there 2 of me?
So my name's Master Paul, and what I want to say is that Ahsoka is great. I don't know where I'm at right now, but it's great.
That was for the stream that we did from this past ICC that Friday night down at the Hilton.
That's pretty fun.
So I do have one last question before we go. We haven't fully ironed out the details yet, but I believe when I go see Tim in a little less than a month, the 2 of us are going to be playing disc golf together. And as someone who has played disc golf,
assuming
him,
I'm not in the hospital with the
true
baby.
That is true. But if it happens, how do I take him down? What's his weaknesses?
You ain't. So
No. So here's the catch, and this is all dependent.
Only with prayer and fasting can you.
Through prayer and supplication, let your requests be known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the kicker for that is we're gonna have a wheel. It's probably just gonna be on the phone, and it's gonna have different shots: forehand, roller, putter, left-handed,
not for him.
Disc upside down. Yes, for me.
You're still.
He plays regular.
You're still gonna win.
I'm still gonna win.
I'm
still gonna win.
If you didn't win, I would be disappointed.
Now the question would be: do we film a full 18?
It's nothing against you,
9?
Paul. Like disc golf is a skill sport.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a skill sport.
It's a game of percentages as well.
Darren says just take steroids.
If you've never played, you cannot beat somebody that has a clue what they're doing.
Right.
Because
you could play with a mini and beat a noob if you know what you're doing.
Tim can launch it, and he's good.
And it'll be level playing field because it'll be a course neither of us has played before.
That ain't a level playing field.
Yeah. You're right.
I understand.
Darren,
Well-
that's assuming I don't already.
Let's see. Donald's talking about the whole Force thing. That doesn't jive with what Lucas established for. Yeah, it does.
It jives with Lucas's own words.
Yeah, the Force is an
That's
energy
what we were
field
talking about earlier.
created by all living things. It
All living
surrounds
things.
us, penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together. So, thank you
it's-
guys.
So the Jedi is a code that Force users belong to and follow said code.
Yep.
That's what a Jedi is, not Force user.
It's a particular branch of martial arts, if you want to put it in those
That's it.
terms.
Yeah,
That's it.
same with the Sith.
Yeah. If you're not strong in the Force, they don't accept you.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to be a Jedi.
Exactly.
Yes, Jedi Mike.
Well, on that note, thank you guys for coming on here, and
Pleasure.
we'll go ahead and open up for plugs. Coach, is there anything you want to plug for EBN?
Oh yeah. There's some things I could plug.
Very poor choice of words on my part.
I'm just bad coach.
I
Just
take
going
no
to church.
responsibility for what my co-hosts say.
Thrawn. ... I have nothing to plug. I'm going to continue to watch Ahsoka and be honest and transparent and authentic in my reviews. If I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I don't like it. But here's the main thing. I'm going to tell you why. Because I think, to just give opinions without saying why.
Oh
Hey,
man, Black Dragon's
My
coming in on you now.
bodyguard's mad at me. To just give your opinion and not say why you think that. And the other thing is to not accept others' opinions that are different than yours. Well, shame on you. And I refuse to be a sheep that just follows anyone blindly. I'm going to be a free thinker and believe what I believe. And I don't care what Gary from Nerdrotic or Geeks and Gamers or whomever else. I don't care what they think. That's great. You do you. But here's what I think about Ahsoka. And too many people follow others blindly. And honestly, for the people who are hating Star Wars, good Star Wars, in my opinion, everybody's not going to agree with this, but there might be some good Star Wars right in front of your face right now, but you can't see it because you're blinded by your hate. So I would say consider leaving altogether. Just quit doing Star Wars. If you take a break or something.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is if that is you, I lost my train of thought.
If it's you, then stop.
Mhm.
Which is why he stopped.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'll jump off of that. My favorite thing about my channel is the dialogue we have in the comments. I've never seen another YouTube channel with legitimate, and it was very prevalent in Andor. Less so now because I took a little hiatus, but the genuine conversations in the comments, and that spills over into the Discord server as well. Fans talking and disagreeing on stuff. If I say I didn't like a thing or I say that I loved a thing and people disagree with that, we're able to have that dialogue in the comments.
Hey, Nick.
Burns to the ground. Nick, I'd love to have you on my channel. We'll talk about it sometime. Because I'll be
Hey,
there.
look, he's not hating Ahsoka. It's very mid for him.
Right. I remember
Which is
seeing that first video. y'all did.
extremely valid.
And
Yeah.
and the people who say, and Nick said something in our show, our review the other day that I could not agree with more. Star Wars for the majority of our life has been the gold standard. It no longer is. So the measuring bar for Star Wars is insanely high for anything else, but it's been so bad for so long that they're giving us a solid show right now, and we're like, yes. And people are like, Coach, that's why you gave it an 8, because you're in starvation mode for decent Star Wars. Well, you just got decent Star Wars, and you gave it an 8.
By decent Star Wars, you mean like anything that we're actually having fun with?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it doesn't have to be the best Star Wars ever. We already
Right.
talked about that earlier. We're never getting Return of the Jedi again.
Well,
We're never.
no.
For me, I'm never getting the prequels again.
And everything can't be a 10.
Right.
It just can't. If everything was a 10, then and I feel like that's what The Mandalorian in the first 2 seasons did well.
Yeah.
Good, solid episodes with an occasional great one.
Yes.
That's what that's what Ahsoka needs to do.
Yeah.
But
And the way that
go
sorry.
ahead. No, it's
The
okay,
way
go
that
ahead.
I grade shows, and you said you do it like a teacher's grade.
Mhm.
The way that I grade shows in relation to other Star Wars is it's by itself. So when I say that the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, I gave it an 8.5, that's not taking into consideration the movies or Rogue One or Andor or anything.
I agree.
That's just for Ahsoka. The premiere of Ahsoka, if I'm putting it in relation to everything else, probably a 6.5, maybe a 7. And even with Andor, multiple episodes of Andor, I gave 10 out of 10s.
Yes.
In relation to all of Star Wars, 8.5, maybe 9. So when I give out a number, it's always within this show.
This is the last thing that I wanted to key in on here, and Jedi Mike just reminded me, where he says art is subjective, but discussion and dialogue with different perspectives is the key to move forward. I agree with him.
I love that.
Too many people are using the word objective, and they're saying that Ahsoka is objectively bad. Well, those people do not know, obviously, what the word objective means, because
You keep using that
objective
word.
objective means
Yeah.
straightforward without bias. You can't tell me one thing that exists in this galaxy besides God that is not biased. Everything
Agreed.
is biased. There is no such thing as objectivity. Everything is subjective. So that's one of the problems that I have in fandom right now.
Yes. Black Dragon says it here. You can always find things that you like in bad shows, and you can always find issues with shows that you like.
Yep.
Yes. So the point of what we've been saying is just don't adopt other people's opinions as your own just blindly. Experience what is being talked about for yourself. Keep their stuff in mind because they've got a reason for saying that, but experience it for yourself and make your opinions based on your own experience. If you so happen to coincide with anyone else's opinion, great. If you don't, equally great.
If you can't back up your opinion with facts and evidence, then it is worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Have a reason for said opinion. That's the problem that I'm seeing. Too many people just parrot other people's opinions, and they can't support it. So their opinion is meaningless. It has no weight.
Yes. By the way, hello in the chat to Dan the Man. What's up, man?
To address KG, you're seeing the chat from my channel. We're mooch streaming right now. We're dual streaming. So Paul's
Yes.
got his. We can see both, and we can pull up comments from both.
Yeah.
But that's still something we're
like,
experimenting with.
I pulled up Dan the Man from Tim's chat. Leia Rose right now is in mine, so I can tell through my view.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it's been working. So guys, thank you for coming on here with me. Of course, if you guys are available, you're invited next week for episode 4. And as far as what's coming up next on this channel, I think tomorrow is going to be if I can get the guys together to do it, I think tomorrow is going to be another Smash Brothers stream. And then from there, Friday, honestly, I don't know. I'd like to try and bring back Animation Friday at some points and keep going back over Transformers. I do want to bring back Tuesday Night Trek. So I got to figure out the logistics of all of that. And Thrawn is asking you, Tim, to link. Oh, Black Dragon already did it. Yes. If you guys, everyone watching this, if you are not subscribed to either of these guys, either Coffee on Korriban or Echo Base Network, make sure you guys are subscribed to them, especially, especially these two guys, especially these truly are some of my best friends on YouTube. Coach and Nick, I have said multiple times, was my inspiration for starting
Stop it.
Fandomology. And,
Yep. Nope. I'd say the same thing.
and
I wouldn't have started my channel if it wasn't for Echo Base.
And of course, I got to know
You'll give
Tim
us way
along
too
the
much
way.
credit.
It is 100% deserved.
We're two idiots talking Star Wars. That's
Yeah,
all we
and if
are.
any of you guys in the chat like this type of reasonable discussion, make sure you join our Discord servers. I can't speak to coaches, but because I don't know what your Discord server is like these days. But
I don't either.
at least as far as my Discord, we got a great group of people in there. Very reasonable in discussions.
Nick says, "Where are you at in the? I think I'm about to start season 3, so I'll let you know for sure. I got to go back and look at my episode list, but I'll let you know for sure, Nick. I'll DM you. But anyways, guys, we're gonna go ahead and exit out for the night. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. May the stash be with you. We are, you are, whatever that face avatar is making." We are your Echo Base
like that at
Network,
all.
and I'm going to bring this one out of retirement for tonight. Remember, everyone, the Force is family, and we will see you guys later.